I'm Tristan from the Kitesurf Centre, and today we're reviewing the F1 Strike V2. The Strike V1 was the wing we used the most last year. It's a very popular wing. It was sort of market leading in terms of who it was aimed at and how it performed, and the V2's seen quite a few improvements. So the Strike wing is the model up from the Swing, which is the sort of more entry-level wing from F1. So the Strike, although it is very user-friendly, it's got a bit more performance for a sort of more intermediate or advanced rider. Having said that, you can put it in the hands of a complete beginner and it still has a lot of stability and is very easy to use. So it's always been the sort of the benchmark, the Strike. A lot of the other brands that we work with have always come to us and said, their new wing is as good as the Strike, or it's sort of on par with the Strike. So now that this has come out and they've brought out the new one, then it's obviously going to raise the benchmark again. So we're going to go through what's changed on the Strike and the improvements that it's had. So one of the biggest improvements is it's now a little bit shorter. So it's more noticeable in the bigger sizes because you aren't going to drag the wingtip, especially when you're sort of lower down on the foil or on the board on the water. So it's reduced a little bit. So it's got a very slightly deeper canopy. So that also helps and aids with its low end, so it has a bit more grunt to it. So there's more of the centre part of the wing which is catching the wind. On the Strike V1, one of the few downsides to it is it didn't have a lot of low speed power. So once you got moving, as it was a little bit higher aspect, it had a really good sort of acceleration, but didn't have a lot of grunt to it. So if you're coming out of a jibe or a tack quite slowly and you sheeted in, it didn't always have that sort of get up and go. Straight away we'd notice on this one that it's got a lot more of that low end pull. That's also due to the profile, so the shape of it has changed quite a lot. It's got a deeper profile, which means it has got that extra power, but it's kept a skinny leading edge, so it's still efficient and very good at going upwind. The Strike we find is, on our beach here at Canberra, is absolutely brilliant. You can do one tack out to the right and we can tack 3 miles upwind to the river, which in terms of sort of comparing it to maybe kite surfing or some of the other wings, that would take maybe 10 tacks to get up there, but one long tack on the Strike, because it's so efficient at going upwind, you just go almost like 30 degrees into the wind, so it's absolutely brilliant. You'll see that the strut has changed shape. So we've got a much bigger strut, and you see it's got a bit of a sort of a kink in it. So the idea is that will give it a lot more structural integrity. So it's going to be a lot more sort of solid, so allow it to flex a lot less. And we'll see that the actual shape of the wing has changed. So if you're looking over the wing like this, you can see it's got a lot more sort of bend to it, which is a little bit more like the Swing. So the advantage we found with this so far is that with the extra, the thicker strut and the kink in it, it's a lot more solid. So it's almost like pre-tensioned. So when you're pumping the wing, a lot of the time with a lot of wings, you pump it and you feel like the wing is just bending, and all that power you're putting into it is just being wasted, and the wind's being exhausted out of the trailing edge. Whereas this one's already tensioned, so when you pump it, it can't sort of bend backwards anymore. So it's a lot more efficient when you're sort of in your low end, or when you're trying to get going or coming out of a turn, you're giving it a pull, then it's really, really efficient. It's got a slightly more comfortable leash. So your wrist leash is really comfy, it doesn't get caught up. And it's a little bit lighter. The overall weight is a little bit lighter, and we found so far when you've got it in the neutral position, you're riding the foil on a wave and it's just hanging out the back, with this little sort of bend in it, if you've got gusty or cross winds coming, then it sort of balances itself better like this. It uses that shape to allow it to float. So just like the Strike 1, the balance of it is absolutely brilliant. So it's by far the best wing we've used when you're actually surfing the wave. It's really, really nice. The other thing is it's now slightly lower pressure. So it's 8 psi rather than 9 psi. I imagine probably because it's got the slightly thicker strut, it doesn't need that really high pressure, which will probably give the life of the product, probably give it a slightly longer product life because it hasn't got so much pressure on all the seams. Even though they are reinforced, it's probably a good thing. We should see less wear on the trailing edge as well. Because it's already tensioned, there'll be a lot less flutter. And the kink in the strut will help that as well, so it's always keeping the trailing edge under tension, which is something we see across a lot of wings, is that they actually wear out and stretch quite quickly. Because when you've got them in a neutral position, if the trailing edge is fluttering the whole time, it's just wearing out that ripstop material. And you can see quite quickly on wings when they've